Hello everyone, here's a supplemental captain's log. I'm going to talk about the Justice League news that we got this weekend, and there's not a whole ton to say about this because we don't know much yet, but I kind of wanted to throw in my 2 cents and talk about what I think just about what we know. So, here's what we know. Over the weekend, Warner's announced that allegedly they are going forward with greenlighting a Justice League movie. We can infer that it'll probably be somewhere in the order of 2018, 2019, because they've not given us a definite date yet, but Batman, Superman, whatever that thing is going to ultimately be called, is in 2016, so it's not going to be any earlier than 2 years after that, probably. Although, there was that really silly rumor, if it was a rumor, it sure seemed like this is what they were talking about doing pretty hard for a second, after Man of Steel, that they wanted to rush out the next Superman movie for the very next year, and then they abandoned that when they came up with Superman Batman. Obviously, Warner Brothers still doesn't have a real definite plan. They're constantly kind of jumping around, changing their minds, going with kind of whichever way they feel like at the moment the wind seems to be blowing. And so it seems to me like they've right now they think they have more of a plan than they did before, since we're hearing about all of these Justice League characters that are supposed to be in the Superman Batman movie. So I think that this time we can be pretty sure that they're actually going forward with a Justice League movie. So many times, and Eric and I talked about this yesterday, and he made a really good point. We've had so many announcements from Warner Brothers about projects that ultimately don't end up happening because they keep changing their minds and they can't commit to anything. So he was like, well, I don't know how much stock we want to take in this. And that's really fair, but I think this time it seems like this is all the plan they have is Justice League. This is their tunnel vision. We're putting all of our eggs in the Superman Batman basket, and we've got to set up for Justice League in that movie so that if it's successful, we can guarantee the Justice League movie will sell, and that's why they're putting all these characters in that movie. Okay, so that's their business strategy, and I'm gonna make no bones about this. I feel like the creators over there, Snyder and Goyer and Warner Brothers, I really feel like there's not a lot of passion for the characters and for storytelling, and that, I mean, I guess we'll see with Superman and Batman, but it's just like I don't hear anything from those folks about this great story they have to tell. I don't really hear anything about, oh man, just wait till you read the script. We've got some really interesting things for these characters. It's this it's going to be this really fascinating new take on these characters. I keep hearing more superficial stuff. I mean, maybe that's just trying to be hush-hush about the whole thing, but the way that the project was conceived in the first place, I really doubt it. It really seemed like, well, we know we want to make a Man of Steel sequel because that movie did well enough at the box office. What do we want to do? Oh, I don't know. Let's spitball some ideas, throw some stuff out there. And the reason that's a problem in my brain is because Man of Steel was the beginning of this whole thing. We knew that Warner Brothers wanted to do this huge shared universe because they don't want Marvel to be the only people that get to make a lot of money from that idea. And so they say, well, we own all these characters and we could do the same thing, but we kind of had our tail between our legs for a long time because we were afraid to take the risk, so we never did that. And now that Marvel has proven that it's viable, and that Avengers made $1 billion, now we can follow suit, and we better hurry up and get there because we didn't spend the last several years taking some risks and trying some things, and getting some movies out. So we've got to hurry up and get there now that Avengers has already done it, because I guess they're afraid that at some point the superhero movie ceiling, glass ceiling, comes down on them, and these movies won't be viable anymore. So they have to hurry up and get to Justice League instead of taking their time and giving these characters and letting us really spend some time with these characters before they just start throwing them all in movies together. That's just how I feel about it. want to have a wait and see attitude. I'm hoping that they find a really good way to juggle things with Batman and Superman. But I gotta tell you, with all the characters we're hearing they're throwing in that movie, I'm a little bit worried about something like an X3 syndrome, because as I've said before, I don't like that we're getting a Superman and Batman movie before we get to actually spend some time with Superman's status quo, given that first movie was another origin movie for Superman, and I don't feel like we really get to know him very well in that movie. You get to the end of it, and you see something sort of pseudo-reminiscent of the regular Superman status quo. We don't get to spend any time there, and now when we finally get to spend some time there, he's got to share all that screen time with all these other superheroic characters. Having said that, at least they won't have to introduce all of the Justice League characters in the Justice League movie. And it seems like, again, that's a somewhat following suit thing with Avengers. I feel like we're seeing a little bit of an Iron Man 2 thing where, we introduced Black Widow so that we wouldn't have to introduce her in the Avengers movie, and I feel like they're kind of trying to do that with everybody here and just truncating the whole thing, simplifying it so that we can do all of that setup in a couple of hours instead of over a few movies. Now, there was talk a long time ago, back before Man of Steel, when Warner Brothers really didn't know what they wanted to do with these characters, that they were thinking about doing a Justice League movie first and then giving them all their own movies, kind of going the backwards formula from what Marvel Studios is doing, and that could have been a really interesting model too. I always thought I could totally see it both ways. You run the risk of having a movie that's all set up and really no storytelling, really not a lot of good character progression, but it would be, again, I know I keep saying this, but it would be a risk. It would be a different way of going about it. You would be showing that you're trying to carve out your own identity and not just cashing in on what Marvel did. So yeah, we are finally doing it because Marvel proved that it was viable, but at the same time, did we really need it through most of the 2000s because we had the Nolan films and they were doing great, and maybe we didn't want to use Nolan's Batman to jump into a shared DC universe, and maybe we didn't want to do another continuity at the same time as we were doing the Nolan films. There was that Justice League movie that almost happened, so they almost did that. But I'm just saying that I can kind of see the wisdom of all of that. If they wanted to say, okay, we better hurry up and get a Justice League movie out because Marvel has shown that that's viable, I could have seen the wisdom of, let's make that the first thing we do. Or even maybe the second, the more I'm thinking about it, I almost could have seen a Justice League movie even before a Batman Superman movie, where we say, okay, we did Man of Steel, we set up our first superhero, and then we do this big superhero movie where this huge threat happens and all these superheroes kind of come out of the woodwork, and then we do a Superman sequel, so that we weren't pretending like it was his second movie. It's just kind of an everybody sort of movie. I don't know, could have worked, maybe, but I just feel like what they're doing is cram everybody you can in a movie under the pretense of it being this big Batman Superman movie, but you're sort of doing it's sort of just a Justice League setup movie. I'm just afraid it's all business. I'm just afraid there's not going to be a story here. I guess we'll see. Anyway, so it's going to be directed by Zack Snyder, and that is the most disappointing part about this for me, because I really thought that I was with a lot of the camp that said that maybe the whole idea for getting Ben Affleck to play Batman is to tap him to direct Justice League. And now it looks like Snyder is just directing all of this. So, Warners, you have to stop looking at this like a big shared universe, because you're not making enough films for that. What you're making is the DC Universe Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3, right? Like, you can kind of say that about the Marvel Studios projects, but each of those films has somewhat of, or at least each of those separate, characters with their own kind of mini franchise. Each has sort of kind of their own flavor. This is the same people doing all the same stuff, and I mean doing all of your stuff. So Snyder's just directing all of it. Maybe I'm jumping the gun in being as hard on all of this as I am. I just can't get excited about Snyder directing Justice League. Now, if Superman Batman blows us all out of the water, then I will get excited about that, probably, sure. But I'm just saying that, like, I've been waiting to hear about some new blood on this stuff. I've been waiting for Warner's to just stop playing it safe, quit going back to the same well all the time. Give some other people a try. It's honestly less about the directing, more about the writing. I really hope that that Justice League isn't a Goyer script, but it probably will be. I would be very, very surprised if they didn't do it that way, because it's safe. I mean, that's why they wanted Nolan to co-write Man of Steel, because that team brought in huge box office numbers for the Dark Knight trilogy. So naturally, Warner's would want the exact same people to reboot that same character. No, I really, really resist this, and I just want to see some new blood. I want to see some new ideas. I'll be very impressed if that movie presents us with a very, very different Batman, and not the same sort of ideas that we had before, not the same flavor of it. But I've seen Man of Steel, and I would be very surprised if that happened. I still feel like Man of Steel could have very easily fit into the Nolan universe. I don't know, it just has a really similar flavor. But again, it's playing it safe. Warner's thinks that that's the tone that it takes to sell these movies. So that's what they've got to do. And it's new because it's never been done that way with Superman before. But I guess we'll see how the same people coming in and rebooting the character that they've worked on already. And I guess when I say they, I'm pretty much now just saying Goyer, because Nolan's no longer involved in the writing process. And Snyder is certainly involved now in some of the storytelling. So, and I mean, no bones about this. I don't think he's a great writer. So, anyway, I guess we'll see. I'm not real stoked about this news, but that doesn't mean that it will necessarily be bad. We've got to see what Superman Batman's going to be like. And we've got to see if they are going to cram too many characters in that movie, and if it's going to just feel like it's all business, or there's actually a story there to tell. But once we get some distance from this, if Batman and Superman does gangbusters, like I think it probably will, Warner Brothers might finally stop keeping their stop staying so close to the vest and finally start greenlighting some projects. If I heard, okay, we're doing Justice League right after the Superman and Batman, which is not surprising at all, by the way. If we're doing Justice League right after Superman and Batman, but then they also said, and then a year after that we get Flash, and then a year after that we get Wonder Woman, and then a year after that we get Aquaman, then I would be a lot more upbeat about this whole thing. But I feel like there's such this wait-and-see attitude that these characters aren't getting their own singular movies, and I'm afraid that means that we're not going to really get to know them very well. That's all I'm worried about. I just want some cool characterization for these people. If they're doing... let me say this real quick before I'm done. If they are doing the 52 roster, then that at least would mean that we'd get Aquaman, which I think could be really, really fun, and that's a character that I'd like to see on screen, certainly. That would give us Flash, and they've been talking about Flash. We knew they'd probably do him, and it'll be kind of interesting to see two Flashes happening at the same time, since we have a TV Flash. But it means that we won't get Martian Manhunter, and I really wanted to see Manhunter, and that's why I'm kind of down on the Cyborg thing. Is I feel like if they're doing Cyborg, they probably won't do Martian Manhunter, and I just I always really liked that character, and I always thought that kind of Vulcan stoicism was a neat thing to have on that team, and Cyborg kind of just gives it a little bit more of a teen angle. It's like, okay, we've got this younger kid, and it also seems like sort of for the sake of diversity. So like, it's sort of your token black guy thing, and I'm not sure that there's much of another reason to put him on that team, except that Jeff Johns did it. And I don't know, so I guess I sound really, really negative on this. We'll see. I'm not surprised, and I guess I was just hoping to to be surprised by the next big thing they announced, and because I'm waiting for them to quit having this wait and see attitude. And also, Eric has a really good point. I mean, yeah, they did attach a director, which once they've done that, it's hard for me to think that they'll go any other way. But it could be that after Superman and Batman, they'll totally change their strategy again, because that's what they did after Man of Steel. They started announcing things and then they totally changed their strategy. At the very least, Warner Brothers, just quit announcing things until you're absolutely positive. Like that should be your gold standard. As soon as you have announced a thing, you're not allowed to go back on it. You have to do that thing now. And lastly, Warner Brothers, this is not a nuclear arms race with Marvel. Make movies. You got some really, really great characters there. Go find some fantastic writers that you haven't worked with before. Get some cool scripts. Look for some directors that maybe aren't the biggest names in the world but are talented, and then give us some great movies. Take some risks. You did well enough with Man of Steel that you can afford a dud or two if you make enough films. That's all I'm saying. They seem to be trying to rush stuff out in case the superhero movie thing stops being popular, and I'm afraid that if that's going to be the attitude from some of these studios, they're going to burn us out really fast. They're going to cause that very thing to happen. And you might say, well, Captain Logan, you just said they need to make a whole lot of movies. Wouldn't that burn us out really fast? No, not if they're really good. That's what I think, and I'm afraid that they're not. That right now, the studio heads, and studio heads are always like this, I guess. But I mean, I just get the feeling from everybody working on that stuff that they're not that concerned with telling great stories. They're more concerned with getting a piece of Marvel's pie, and that's the attitude I don't like. Hope I'm proven wrong. Really want to be proven wrong. So that's what we know. That's how I feel about it. Thanks everybody as always for watching, and I will be back with you again with lots more videos. I am trying to get new acquisitions out from last week. I'm still not finished with that. Today I'm doing a big film shoot, and I'm having a hard time juggling everything to get that finished. So bear with me. I will get that out as soon as I can, and then there'll be another new acquisitions later on over the weekend. Thanks for watching, folks. Sure appreciate it. I'm Captain Logan.